Okay, it is 6:30. Call the meeting to order, December 19th meeting of the BUHS number 6 board. And we have Lori, I guess, will be unable to make it tonight. I think everybody else is here. So we'll launch into the budget review, which is the first item not on the official agenda, but the first review for the entire board of our 2013 budget. So I would like to start off and just take a couple of minutes to go through some of the basics of the budget. Many of you have been involved with reviews, individual reviews. Several of us here are on the finance committee and have gone through this, but for the benefit of everyone and the folks watching, I would just like to go through a brief review. We, back in as early as probably October, gave the administrators some general direction regarding the budget, and they took our general direction, which was to maintain a proper education for the kids, but also keep it at a minimal, if at all, increase in the operating expenses in particular. It continues to be a challenging year in the state economy and our economy and for the taxpayers. So they took that and ran with it, and we're all extremely pleased with the results. In business, when you put together a budget, you take a look at how many customers you have and how much you think they're going to spend, and that's how you build your expense budget. You don't build it from thinking, oh, I'd like to have this, I'd like to have that. And this is, I think, exactly what they did. They took a look at their current enrollment, which is, in our case, the customers, and I think built a very responsible budget. As a result, the total operating budget, and this is before capital improvements and debt service, the total operating budget is down actually by about 1.26%. And I'll go through the three units individually, and then I'll ask Ron to make a few comments about the revenue side. That's one of those things that those of us who have been on the board for I don't know how many years still wrestle with. And as soon as there's a question on that, we look for Jim Kane to dig us out. But I want to talk a little bit about the operating part and the expenses. Starting with the district-wide, and that would be for the services that cover all three of the units, senior high, career center, and BAMS. Our district-wide budget is down 1.76%, about $190,000. And the big factor there is tuition, meaning the tuition that we pay for our students to be placed out of district at the various locations, Kendall Farm, Austin, and so forth. And the administration has done a great job of trying to minimize that and still get these young people the services that they need. So the tuition was down a large amount, and that's by far the biggest factor. We did make a couple of small increases. In-house suspension para, which was in the BAMS and BUHS budget, is now in the district budget. Our planned building maintenance is up a little bit. The facility, as reconstructed, has been in operation now for several years, so as to be expected with a $55 million operation, there's going to be some maintenance that's going to creep up a little bit each year, and it's going to be up about $60,000. Some of that is in actual planned maintenance. Some of it is a little bit in electricity and wood chips. Wood chips have saved us a huge amount of money right from day one. But we did budget a slight increase there and a little bit in electric. About $60,000 increase in planned building maintenance, which is really a pretty small amount based on the size of this operation. And we also have added some technology, part of which the additional expense is offset by some reductions in expense in the technology area at BAMS. So the district-wide budget is down 1.76%. Senior high is down 2.28%. And as I talk about the individual units, I'll give you a general idea of our customer base, so to speak. And these are numbers that are subject to slight change, but the enrollment is projected to be at about a little over 902 next year, versus, I believe, at the beginning of this year we started with 930. So that's going to be down a little bit, but the budget is down, and part of it is staff reductions that, including the retirements, have made a difference in our salary line. Just a little reflection of the last 2 or 3 years in the senior high, I've reduced 2 positions in math, 1 full-time equivalent in English, and this year we made a reduction of 1 in science. And we also, based on the change of the administrative setup, realized some savings. We now have 2 houses instead of 3, and we have a dean of students, which is not a full year-round position. So there were some savings there. And I believe there was going to be a reduction, or there has been, in the administrative clerk area in terms of total hours. Not specifically any individual, we don't talk about that, but there will be some savings there. Increases in the BOHS budget, increasing the school-based clinician from 4-day to a 5-day position. And also technology integration. We have made great investments in our technology over the years, but we need to keep investing, and we also need to provide the human expertise to have everybody properly be able to use the technology that we have. So there's some increase there, and also for technology hard goods. But overall, the high school budget is down 2.28%. BAMS is down an even 3%. Their enrollment is projected to be at about 255 versus currently 270. There are no new programs. It's a level service budget. Most departments, any increases were just a factor plugged in for contractual increase in salary and benefits. And notable increases were particularly in the tech ed department there. We had 2 retirements in that department a year ago. So now that's working its way through the system, and we have less expense there. And those are the principal changes. Pretty much a level funding, again at BAMS, reflecting the student base, I think, very nicely. We did make they did make a couple of transfers. Some payroll, math payroll is up a little bit, social studies is down. These are things that kind of offset each other. And the couple of increases, slight increases in the summer learning program has been extremely successful, and we have a lot of young people that benefit tremendously by not having that long hiatus from school. And the summer learning program is something we think is working really well, and we want to make sure that continues to thrive and grow. And the BEAMS program, which is the after-school program, is in the 4th year of a 5-year grant. So over a period of time, the grant money will be reduced on that, and our local contribution will increase a little bit. But again, overall down 3% in BAMS. The Career Center is up slightly, less than 1%. Our enrollment there has been fairly level Enrollment in the Career Center is a little bit harder number to pin down because we look at full-time equivalents, and then there's the total enrollment. So there are people that are taking part of the day there, many people part of the day, kids from the other schools and so forth. But the full-time equivalents have been relatively level in the last 3 years at about 200 and just over 200. Slight increases, adult ed up a little bit. That program is serving 660 some adults now, up from 493. Very successful program there. We made some slight increases in the performing and technical arts and performing arts dance, which we're expanding the New England Circus?
Yes. Circus Arts, yes.
Yeah, New England Circus Arts program. So contracted fees there will be up a little bit. So putting all the units together, we get a decrease of $312,000 in our operating budget from last year, or 1.26%. Below that line, we have capital improvements. We have reviewed and developed over the last few months a capital plan for looking out 8 years as to what the things that we're going to need to do, building and facility improvements, vehicles and so forth. And in the first year, we've identified about $517,000 worth of work, which we will be proposing to do out of funds that we have available to us in surplus. In addition, before we get to the bottom line, we have to include debt service, which is down $55,000 from last year, and then the note on the track, which is down slightly from last year. We're still paying off on that. So the total budget, including debt service and capital improvements, comes out to about increase of $145,289, or half of 1%. But again, I remind you that that includes money that we would put into capital improvements that we have available to us now in surplus. Would you like to comment on the revenue side, the complicated stuff?
Well, I'll take a wagon. So in your packet, it's I think the second page in, where you have the 3-year Act 60 comparison. Do you have that? So this is set up a little bit differently than the regular town districts, but if you look at the middle of the page, I think the important information is the common level of appraisal. And all of this material is estimates that the most recent data that Jim has gotten from the state. And we think it's fairly consistent with what's going to take place in about a month when we run the budgets for each district. I guess what I wanted to do is show you the impact by town. So if you look across where you have the common level of appraisal, you'll see Brattleboro, Demerson, Guilford, Putney, and Vernon. And then you'll see the percentage of the common level of appraisal. Brattleboro at 99.620, and right across to Demerson, Guilford, and Putney. And the difference in terms of the residential tax rate, the proposed year is on the top. So Brattleboro is 0.7986 compared to 0.7922. So Brattleboro's tax impact is up less than a cent compared to last year's tax impact based on the BUHS 6 budget. Demerston, if you go across, their CLA is 99.43%. Their tax is actually down about 8.5%. Oh, I'm sorry, not percent, cents. 8.5 cents. Okay. Guilford, if you go across, their common level appraisal is 82%, and their tax impact is less than 1 cent difference. Putney, 90%, 90.5 for the CLA, and their tax impact is down 3.4 cents. And then Vernon, the thing with Vernon is that their CLA is high. It's 110%, 0.850. So that has a negative impact on the tax impact. And so they are up 2 cents. Not a lot, but of all the boards you can see, or all the districts, they're up the most. So it's really good news in terms of what Bob was saying in terms of the overall budget numbers, maintaining really excellent quality programs, making a few reductions, adding a few things that seem to balance off with some capital improvements that we know we need to have this minimal tax impact is really a great thing for us in terms of the district. So, good job. Now, if there's any real specific questions about this page or these 2 pages, I guess I would defer to Jim Kane. He'll be with us in the next meeting, January 3rd, when you essentially formally adopt this budget. And clearly, you can always email him with questions as well.
And there may be some slight changes along here when we
right.
get more information right up to the last minute
Yeah.
sometimes.
You know, another factor I think it's important to note is the different pupil numbers by town. So Dummerston has kind of a low figure here in terms of less of a tax impact because their student numbers in proportion to the rest of the districts is actually gone up. So that helps them. And so that has an impact as well on these figures. So.
Any questions or comments, particularly from those that may not have been in each individual review? We have plenty of backup information on virtually every department and every unit as to how the discretionary budget was devised. But as we reviewed it in the course of, 4 or 5 meetings, I guess.
Is that all?
It was that all? It seems like more, doesn't it? It was obvious to me, and I think to the rest of the committee, that it was extremely well put together. And I really appreciate the work that goes along with that. Yes, Howard?
Yeah, can I just ask a question, Ron? The Brattleboro and Dummerston CLAs are pretty close.
Yep.
But the Dummerston tax rate is affected more. Is that because of student numbers?
Yeah, affected more positively because of the student proportion.
Because of student count. So that affects the tax rate, the number of students you're sending?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Well, it also affects the state aid based on per pupil. The average state
Money that
membership.
comes in, right,
Right.
with the students, right. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
So their increase is at the high school level as opposed to, they're pretty steady at the elementary.
Right.
So as their grades are coming up into 9th grade, they have a few more students.
And the state gives more money for high school students, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so this budget will be reviewed again on January 3rd at our first January meeting, again with opportunity for the public to show up and ask questions and so forth, and hopefully some will. I suspect with a budget like this and the operating expenses going down that there probably may not be as much excitement about it as there would be were it the other way around. But nonetheless, we encourage folks to come see us on the 3rd of January and ask any questions they may have. Okay. Can we move right into the
Sure.
regular meeting, or do we have to wait till 7?
No.
No, because it's warned for 6:30.
I'm going to excuse myself to go to Guilford.
Okay.
See you tomorrow.
And just a quick question, and the annual meeting, and isn't there a public info meeting, or is that January 3rd?
There's two. January 3rd will be the first, and there'll be another public information meeting on February 6th. And then the district meeting is the 14th.
February?
February 14th on Valentine's evening.
Day.
Aww.
Bring your sweetheart and come to the meeting.
There was a massacre that happened on that day, too. wasn't there?
Yeah.
We won't have one of those. Okay, I guess we
Bob,
can.
don't we have to, does the whole board have to vote to approve this
On
budget?
January 3rd.
Oh, that's it,
Right,
okay.
Yeah.
Does the budget committee meet again before that?
The finance committee is
Finance
meeting
committee,
as
yeah.
finance committee, but no, not as a budget meeting. We've reviewed virtually every aspect of the budget,
Sure.
student activity fund, and, operating, and all of that. Okay, let's move on to the clerk's report. And I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes of December 5th, which were,
I move approval of the minutes of December 5th.
okay, Ruth, and who's the second? Vicki? Okay. Are there any,
I have a correction.
okay,
In my BUHS report, it was reported that the event held on December 7th was a poetry slam. It was not. It was a Poetry Out Loud, which is the national recitation competition.
Ron gave me this
Good.
email,
Great.
so I
think
wasn't
it's the
sure
same
how
one.
that got into the minutes, but now it
Yeah,
is.
thanks.
okay, so under the BOHS report, we changed that to poetry out loud.
Poetry Out Loud. It's a more formal event than a poetry slam.
Is it? Guess I'm not up to speed on my poetry events. I wasn't sure what either one was. Okay, any other additions, deletions, or corrections? Okay, if not, all in favor of approving the minutes of December 5th, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Yeah, Ian was not here. Okay. Recognition of groups and visitors. Well, we have Howard from the Reformer, who's back there and asked one question. Okay, so next on the agenda would be consent agenda. Is there a motion to go into consent?
So moved.
Second.
Vicki and Ruth, all in favor?
Aye.
No oppositions. Everybody said aye. No abstentions. Okay. Finance, building, and transportation.
All right. Finance, Building and Transportation met as Finance Committee on December 7th and approved the following warrants. Warrant numbers 1098, 1099, 1101, 1102, 1103, and 1104, and a total amount of $143,834.78. That's what I have.
Okay. Yes, those are warrants for December 5th. but-
Sean has a totally different.
On the agenda.
Yeah.
I
I'm looking at my notes for that particular meeting, and I didn't write them down because I knew we had a copy of it. Was that different than the copy that Jim gave you at the meeting?
It's the amounts are much different. The warrant numbers are the same, but the amounts are much different. I don't know. I mean, Jim gave me this copy here. But what is in the
You don't remember the numbers. I don't remember the numbers either. We looked at them kind of with questions about individual items, but I don't ever memorize the numbers.
Maybe we should pass over this item until we get,
Let's
If
see.
I can, I mean, I've just pulled up the last, the number, the dollar numbers are identical to what was on the December 5th budget, but the numbers of the warrants have changed. So I have a feeling there was a mistake. My guess is there's a mistake in the warrant, not in terms of the. So I think, my guess is you're right, but now that I'm no longer on the finance committee, I wasn't at that meeting. So
It's
I
not
can't
his
confirm.
fault now.
But that's right. So my guess is you're right, and the warrant was wrong because I'll just read from November 21st, 240,000 and change, 21,000, 2,900, 2,056. So those are the same numbers, right? That's in this one. So I have a feeling what happened is that you probably pull up last week's agenda and you changed the numbers and certain numbers weren't changed. So my guess is.
So we have the right dollar figures.
No, the wrong dollar figures.
we have the
But
right
the right
warrant numbers.
The right warrant numbers is my guess, but the wrong dollar figures.
So Ruth has the right dollar figures.
That's my guess.
That's what Russ is saying.
Okay.
He
That's what
thinks.
evidence shows. My induction is not
Okay.
deducing.
Actually, I would suggest that we pass over this item until we get firm figures.
Okay.
That's the sensible thing
Exactly
to
the
do,
same
I
thing.
think.
All right, so we would defer those, which I guess would have no negative impact, in that we're going to meet again on January 3rd. We could approve them as a board on January 3rd. I don't think there's an issue with that
And then we just-
internally for payment of it.
No, because everything's
Yeah,
sort of.
approved by
I
finance.
mean,
And then when we approve consent agenda this evening, we approve consent agenda with the exception of the finance
We need
report,
to
and then next time we'll report. the
verify
two-side
numbers. Okay,
finance has already approved these.
right,
Um,
but we're on winter rules.
well, this is true, but
Yeah.
finance has already
Right,
approved
they're
them.
approved.
Other things that we talked about at finance that day were, Lori Cartwright brought up the question, do we try to buy locally as much as possible? And then I have a note here that there was no movement on the truck for the WRCC, but we do have some movement on the truck, which will be brought up later, I presume.
The purchase of the used truck will be under new business tonight
Yes.
for approval. And some information has subsequently been sent out.
And that was what we covered at the December 7th finance meeting.
Okay, thank you. Planning and policy,
Has not met.
teacher curriculum committee.
We met earlier this evening. We approved a couple of 1% funds in the areas of math, working on some kneecap score improvement things for students, and in the music department related to some software transitions to help students with music learning and performances. We also approved, which is under new business approved by the whole board, but the committee approved, previously we approved as a whole board a trip to Belize by the science department for April school vacation week. In that, the teacher involved has brought before the TCC this evening a desire to, because of the rigor involved pre and post the trip, to award students credit and extra credit, what's the word?
Academic.
Well, academic credit, but it's
Course credit?
electives. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Steve. Elective credits in science and tropical ecology for this trip, so to be awarded 2 credits for that. So under new business later, we'll ask the whole board for approval of that. to add that to the trip. And that's it for TCC.
Thank you. BAMS.
BAMS committee has not met, but we have scheduled our meeting in January. As you all probably remember from our last meeting, we had some issues related to holidays and when we normally meet. So we're going to meet on Monday, January 9th at 7:30. So our regular time, but the second Monday of January as opposed to the first Monday in January to have our next BAMS committee meeting. So.
Okay. WRCC committee has not met since the last, as a committee, have we? Okay. Anything else? Okay. Nothing else for consent agenda? Is there a move to approve consent agenda?
I
With the exception?
move that we approve consent agenda with the exception of the warrants as presented by the Finance Committee until we can get further clarification.
Second.
Okay, Sean seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. We move on to administrative reports. Well, let's see here. Why don't we start in the middle with Dave?
I'm going to hand out a copy of the report from the NEAS Commission on Career and Technical Institutions. I hope there's enough coming around. Well, I've got it all. Just grab it here. Looks like I did it. Okay. As part of the NEAS process, very similar to the high school, we do get accreditation on a 10-year rotating basis. And halfway through that process, which was last summer, or last spring, we go through another review, a 5-year review, which is where, in this case, it was a 3-man team came over to the school and reviewed our progress on the recommendations that were made 5 years ago. And this is the report that came out of that. And as usual, these things, they give us a certain set of commendations, which of, 5 years ago, we had 147 recommendations. We're now about 92% complete on that. They also gave us commendations for dedicated faculty and working in partnership with our administrative team. Some of our new and innovative programming, as we move toward pathways, we've certainly kind of created a number of opportunities that you don't normally find in career technical institutions. We were commended for that. The commission also gave us the recommendations about kids wearing gloves and some sanitary issues in culinary. It's not unusual. Sometimes students don't quite get that. We want to make sure all our fire extinguishers are well mounted in clear sight and signed throughout the facility. We've been working on that. And also trying to increase the involvement of our program advisory committees, including, especially in those areas needing curriculum updates. And reading on, you see that we'll begin this process all over again in the spring of 2016. And like the high school, we'll have to start about a year before that. We'll do another self-study, and the process starts all over again. But we're very, very happy to have the 5-year report out of the way and to kind of not rest easily for 5 years, but to kind of work on the 8% we have less and more continuing on there. The other thing is Thursday is the kind of the wind up for Project Feed the Thousands. I'm really proud to see that in this side of the building, and I think all over our buildings, kids have been bringing in a lot of food. The Career Center is going to use its fleet, of which we hope there'll be an addition to today, to pick up food throughout this campus. We're also going to Vernon, Dummerston, and we're doing one other school here in Brattleboro, and I can't quite remember where that is. But then we will bring all of that food, and the students that pick it up will go over to Hannaford. And I believe what they're trying to do is save that bus kind of thing, or move that bus. What show was that on TV? I can't remember it. But they're going to fill a bus with food. And the bad news is we know we're going to help fill the bus. We don't know how that bus is going to get empty, but they're going to bring that bus full of food down to the drop-in shelter where it gets counted and handed out. So we'll probably be part of that process also. Thank you.
And the bus has good brakes, because going
We
down
hope it
South
does.
Main Street, a lot of food.
It's going to have a lot of food in it.
It might end up as new food for the co-op. Thank you, Dave. Okay, Mr. Perrin.
Thank you. First, music news. 22 of our musicians are going to perform 28 different auditions for the All-State Music Festival on January 14th. That's taking place in Hartford, Vermont. And then the All-State will actually be in Burlington in May. 3 of our students have earned acceptance into the New England Music Festival. They include senior percussionist Dominic Italia, who will play in the band. Junior soprano Aurora Phillips and junior alto Amanda Rink will be singing in the chorus. That will be in Dayville, Connecticut on March 15th. And, continuing on with music news, 31 BUHS and BAMS musicians have earned acceptance into the Connecticut Valley District Winter Festival, which will be in Hartford on February 3rd and 4th. 9 of our students will play in the 18-member district jazz band. 10 of BUHS students will sing in the district chorus, and 12 BAM students will play in the 67-member district band. So that's great news for our music department. They continue to shine. The other thing I would like to talk to you about is NEASC, our own NEASC visit, which is coming up quickly. I have a couple of things to share and a request as well. So we've been working since August, and I mentioned it in an earlier board meeting. We've been working to develop our own set of core values for Brattleboro Union High School. And so far, we've gotten input from staff and students as well in the advisory system to kind of look at what our core values are, what do we really value as a learning community, and these core values are going to be used for policy decisions. They're going to be used as we begin to think about updating our behavioral expectations. We're going to try to use them on a regular basis in conversation with students, so they become part of our core values. Who knows? It is for NEAS, but it serves, hopefully for us, it serves a bigger purpose in that it really, for the first time, really allows us to define ourselves both within our community and to the greater community, so we can really share what we as a learning community believe in. So now that we have input from 2 of our stakeholders, I'm looking for input from parents and board members. And in terms of parental input, I put in our newsletter a request for parents if they're interested in serving on our committees or offering feedback on this to let me know. I certainly hope I get some feedback. We have 7 standards committees, and I would really love to get parental input on all of those. In some cases, it's required, and it would be good to. I know our parents are involved. I would love to get them here and get them to be part of that process. There's a parent survey that's going to go home right after the break, and hopefully that parent survey, it's actually done by Endicott College, and our parents are going to fill that survey out, return it to us to give us a better picture of how parents perceive our high school in terms of core values. How do we do assessing? How do we do with curricular issues? And we're looking forward to that input as well. One thing I do need, and I don't need an answer tonight, but I'm going to need them very shortly, is I need a board member to serve on one of our committees. You're welcome to serve on any and all of them, but we do have a requirement that we have a board member serve on our committee for core values, beliefs, and learning expectations. So if there's a board member who's interested in that challenge, it's working with a great set of teachers and a great standards committee chairperson.
Could you give us an idea of meeting,
Sure.
number, meeting frequency? And time?
Probably at the beginning, about once a month. The meetings are generally after school at 3:30. If some committees choose to, some may choose to meet early in the morning before school. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. Contractually, I can't ask them to do that. But, so right now, the first meeting is going to be January 19th at 3:30. And that's when it really does require that we get the board member on that committee.
Is there anybody who immediately,
I'd be happy to, but if they do the morning thing, I can't do that.
But you can't do the afternoon.
I can do the afternoon.
that's great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ian.
And we, as I said, we start our self-study on January 19th. That's going to be an 18-month self-study. Hopefully we're going to get a good, accurate picture of ourselves as a school. And we're actually kind of looking forward to some of what we're going to find out. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good stuff.
What is the name of the committee I just volunteered?
You just volunteered to be on the core values, beliefs, and learning expectations.
Thank you.
And the pay's the same as for all
It does. Great.
Okay, thank you. Now, Jerry, BAMS, what's going on there?
I have a lot going on, actually. I'll start with our Student Leadership Council. They've had a very busy December. They chose a community family as a secret Santa, so the students all piled in our little bus and went over to some local stores with money that they had earned from bake sales and from their dance last June, and bought gifts for this particular family. Came back to school, wrapped them all up, and then they delivered them. They also took time one morning and they visited the food bank. And while they were there, they actually assisted volunteers in helping to package some of the meat and sorting the non-food items, and learned a lot about what it's like to distribute food at the food bank. They are very much moving right along with our Project Feed 1,000, which ends on Thursday. And then as well, they're visiting their alumni, and they're visiting their old elementary schools. They're part of the Arts for Social Change group, and so they're taking turns. I have 4 students going to Vernon on Wednesday, and they work with the high school students, and they're working with elementary school students to talk about community norms in a school, bullying, and harassment for the kids. Steve mentioned the 12 students from BAMS that made district music or concert band. Also tomorrow night in our multipurpose room, our 7th grade social studies teachers have been working on creating an ancient Egyptian museum exhibit. So all the kids are going to be, all those exhibits are going to be up from 6:30 to 7:30 tomorrow night in multipurpose room. At the same time, the 7th grade English teachers are opening up their classrooms to give parents a chance to get a taste of what the digital classroom, part of the Young Writers Project, what that's all about. And that's, like I said, that's tomorrow night. And the last thing to share is we have more BAMS Bucks stories. Yeah, I know Steve always likes when I talk about the BAMS Bucks. But one of our teachers, Angela Saviano, she said, you know, wouldn't it be great to help kids wouldn't it be great to help kids do some holiday shopping? So she put out an email with this idea to the staff, if anyone had new or very slightly used items. And so the staff started bringing in items ranging from kid toys to little ice skates to, you know, ornaments. Didn't really matter. We didn't tell them what they had to, but anything that they had around the house. And we set up a holiday gift store. And the kids could go in, and they're going in at lunchtime, and they're either using their BAMS Bucks, or kids are actually even bringing in a canned good to donate to the Project Feed 1,000. And the kids are coming out of there and just gleaming with buying gifts for, you know, their grandmothers or their little siblings or whatever. I mean, I had a student who had earned 30 BAMS Bucks to ride Mrs. Crisco's scooter, which is a really big hit. And he actually came back to the office and asked if he could take those bucks back so that he could buy something that he saw in the gift shop for his mom. And so, I mean, I think it's going to become an annual event. Yeah, so that's a really kind of a neat thing, just watching kids have that opportunity to, some kids that can't, afford to buy a gift or otherwise, don't have, transportation. So that's the big highlight of our BAM's Button stories. Yeah, that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to Guilford, Council, so I believe that's it on administrative reports. Unfinished business, there's nothing on the agenda, so we move on to new business. And the first item is the budget, which we've already gone over, and it says action needed. At this point, it will be again on January 3rd that action will be needed. So if there's any, upon further study, if anybody has any questions or concerns, we can be happy to take them up in the meantime. Next item, Career Center pickup truck purchase. And I'm going to turn that over to Dave to give us a little background. The Finance Committee has reviewed this initially. We didn't have a specific vehicle in mind at the time, but we reviewed the need, and now Dave has found a vehicle that he'd like to.
The Career Center has several trucks that we use to support our programs, and as you've heard, we also use them to try to support other programs throughout the town here. One of those vehicles was a 1993 Ford F-150 pickup truck, which indeed doesn't have that many miles on it, but after 19 years of use around here in town, the rust was starting to take over more than the vehicle was worth, to be honest with you. So we sent it out for state inspection, as we always do, and it came back with a fairly large repair bill, and I said that it would be time to retire this truck. So we decided to retire it. At that time, I talked to the Finance Committee and to our staff about the kind of vehicle we'd like to replace it. One of the things that's happened over the last few years is we have a fair number of smaller pieces of equipment, a small excavator, a skid steer. We have additional plans for more of these kind of vehicles that students learn how to operate in the process of their classes, and it's a decent skill for them to pick up, especially those who are moving on into forestry, horticulture, or in the construction trades. And we have a need to move these vehicles in various places. So we need a truck that'll haul a fair amount. The other need that we've found over the past few years is to have a truck that's a crew cab, where we can put a total of 6 people in the truck, because it helps bring students to projects. And in the past, we used to have to use our 30-passenger buses and move kids around and transport equipment all at the same time. The crew cabs that we've been looking at over the past few years lessen the load on the buses and help us move smaller groups of kids around. So in combining both of those wishes, we set out to find a 3/4-ton pickup truck with a crew cab. And talked to the Finance Committee about it. The Finance Committee approved us for $30,000 or less. Go find a used vehicle out there that would fit. One of the questions we heard about buying locally, we made a commitment to try to buy locally. But at the same time, I can tell you that the word got out to all area dealers in Greenfield, over in the Keene area, somewhat north of us too. So folks were out looking for a proper vehicle for us. I included in a packet, which I believe you guys have, at least 5 different vehicles that we seriously looked at. And the good news is the economy seems to be improving. Some of these vehicles didn't last very long. I have to admit, car sales are up, and it was that time of year. People were buying. So some of those moved on fairly quickly. Others are probably still there in lots, and that's why we didn't buy them either. But Ford, Brattleboro Ford, came up and said, I got a deal for you. And we said, all right, so let's take a look at it. And so it's a 2003 Ford F-250 pickup. It's a crew cab. It is also a full bed, a full 8-foot bed, which makes it probably one of the largest pickup trucks in the certainly in the country. It's long. It will not parallel park downtown, I can tell you. You can't do that. But it's also got a very decent tow engine. It's a 7.3 liter diesel engine. And with the 2003, it's got 59,000 and some change in miles on it. We brought it to the Career Center. Into the auto shop, took a look at it there. The car is immaculate. It is as new, which is kind of amazing. The history of the vehicle, the way we hear it, and Carfax and our own investigations prove this out. It looks like the truck was used to go back and forth to Florida with a tow of some sort. Looks like it spent a lot of time in campgrounds down there and came back here, so it's never seen winter. It was taken very good care of. We understand it's been in storage for the last couple of years. When you go up underneath it, there is no rust at all. It is absolutely pristine in brand new condition. A truck like this goes for way over $40,000. Ruth, what is on the figure? I gave my package to Ruth here a while ago.
The net price is $22,500, and that reflects a trade-in of $1,000 on the '93 F-150.
And we'll have
Which
to
sounds
pay,
great to me.
We'll have to pay title and registration, which the municipal plates I think are a grand total of $10, and I'm not sure what the title fee is.
It looked like that was in the 22,500, this worksheet anyway from Ford. It said plus that.
Yeah, plus
that. It said 22,201.
Yeah.
And then comes up to 22,500, so that's $300 worth of fees.
Oh no, believe me, like most dealerships, they put their own little finder's fee in there. I think that's the fee you're looking at. There's
The conveyance.
a conveyance
there's a
fee.
conveyance
It
fee
says
right
state
under-
of Vermont fees.
Yeah.
You know, if you look under the line, it's
Line
pre-printed
7.
right under the 22,201. There's a 250.
Oh, yeah, conveyance fee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. I understand.
But we'll have to pay the title and registration, which is negligible. So I would ask that you could approve this purchase. It is sitting over in Brattleboro Ford, waiting for us right now. And with your approval, I could put a purchase order in and move forward with that.
Everybody
Chairman?
had the packet that showed all the other comparable vehicles that were looked at.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we authorize the purchase of a 2003 Ford F-250 Super Crew four-wheel drive pickup from Brattleboro Ford for a net price of $22,500.
Second? Oh, Russ? Okay. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous.
Thank you very much for the support.
Let her roll.
I'll drive it around town for the whole city. I won't park anywhere without a permit.
Okay, next item, the Belize trip, which Ricky referred to prior. And do we have a
So I'm
motion there?
going to make a motion that we approve the creation of a tropical ecology program that will go in conjunction with the Belize trip as extra credit. Elective credit, that's the word I keep screwing up. Elective credit. An elective credit course for 2 credits to be added to the course offering at the UHS.
Well, this has been approved by the committee, and I assume that obviously administration approves of it and the credit being awarded.
And anybody who wasn't at the meeting, I have extra copies of the outline and the breakdown of things, so if anybody wants one.
If that's not been seconded, I'll second it. And then I have a question. What's the difference between credit and elective credit?
You need 97 credits to graduate from the high school. Some of those credits are core credits, and some are elective credit. So core credit is for specific graduation requirement, English, science, social studies. Elective credit is credit beyond that, so you can take courses of interest. So we're saying this wouldn't be for a science credit, but it would be for an elective credit.
Why can't it be for a science credit?
Sure.
Why does it have to be for
I
an elective?
don't think it really matters. It could be for science credit.
I mean,
And if a student has fulfilled their science requirement, then it automatically becomes elective credit.
Yeah, but they might need a science credit or two.
Right.
Most of the core science courses are more than 2 credits, right?
Right. They're usually 4, and
Yeah.
so students have to take 3 science courses.
Yeah.
So it would be rare to find somebody that needs 1 credit or 2.
Well, this is true, but I just thought it'd be nice to have the option.
Since it is a science course.
Yeah,
Right. We could just say for credit.
Okay, I'll take that friendly with
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And then I'll stop screwing up the word, so we'll be all set.
Elective. Is there any other comments or questions? If not, all in favor of the motion as amended, please signify by saying aye. I looked that way, and then I've got to remember to look quickly over here and see if Russ voted. You did, right? Aye.
I did.
So it's unanimous, there were no negatives, no abstentions. Thank you. Okay, the next matter on the new business is the annual board report, and Ricky Davidson has kindly volunteered to pen the board's report that'll go in the annual report. So we don't need to twist any more arms. Ricky, thank you. I'm sure it'll be a great report, and it's you know the due date, and fortunately we have at least a couple of days to work on it. So we appreciate that. Is there any other business to come before the board? If not, I would say happy holidays to all of you. Hope you have a great time, get some rest, and we'll be ready to go back at it January 3rd. There is a finance committee meeting on Wednesday, so those of us on finance are not quite done before the holidays, but other than that, have a happy holiday, and I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed, no abstentions. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Howard.
Sure, thank you.
Approved creation Can you pass them at this point?
No, we're still at this
I saw a big white dude.